Welcome to my little guide on how I do translating for the project. First of all, this video is gonna be unedited in any way possible, so stuttering will be to go. One thing you have to deal with, especially since I will improvise on a lot of stuff or even fail on explaining in the first try. So basically, it's pretty simple setup, but there might be more efficient ways out there which you can use. If you have such ideas how to use it to make it better, go ahead and use them as long as the end result of it being pretty satisfying. So I will go in case you're contributing or trying to help me with translating. I will look over them translations themselves. Depending on the amount of translation you did, it will might be more or less detailed or more into yeah, more, let's say, will look into it a bit more than others, pretty much. So in the end, so first of all, I would on my document site, like everything else, I have a site for contribution, which kind of explains how I set up my text editor. In this case, I use Notepad++. In those cases, I know there is Visual Studio which you can use as well, but I'm not too. Yeah, I'm using the one I started with, and I will end with it until there's nothing else to do. But to let you see what I'm meaning, let's go into this. So, like mentioned on my document side, I have the contribution side, and here is pretty much explained how I set up my Notepad++. So, but let's go first over it. In text editor settings is basically you have to go into the settings tab itself. Here under preferences, then under a new document is here. Make sure that you allow or select ANSI as your choice. By default is UTF-8 and apply to open ANSI files, make it to ANSI, just to be on the safe side. UTF-8 can so screw up the whole files because so much going wrong can be gone wrong, especially if there's different encodings. Well, not anymore, since I took over a bit before. It used to have multiple encoding or untranslated euro items as example, which got screwed with that encoding. So go with ANSI, it's the most safe one. On that note, on my Discord, I have the contribution channel with several threads about a list of items which are not translated. In these threads, in those threads, you see Lua files which are attached. You can download them and you can make use of the multi-item info support, which are also explained in my document site. And like, let me see where it is. Here, multi-info where to like this one. To include that. So in this case, you only have the untranslated missing items of the date, pretty much. But if you want to translate them, you surely can use those files, like also do, of course, which are printed from various scripts. And after extracting and decompiling all Lua files, I'm running on custom or my own Lua code to get this list. Because by default, if you try to decode a Lua file, a loop file to Lua, the result will look like this. So it's not really looking good. And I have Lua codes in place to run, which first of all sorts the lists or the items which are missing based on the server and so on. And then in the end, it prints me this kind of layout I need to make it easier, less editing, less mask replacing, and so on. But so use those instead of the item info, otherwise you have to do it yourself. But it's up to you. I know those files are still kind of required for me to sync official files, which I didn't do at the date I made this video or make this video. Maybe I will do it one next or 2 weeks, depending on when I remember again. But according to the current list, I have so much, there are so many still items missing because I didn't have any time currently to focus on any of it. Like you see here, I still have 7,000 items to translate of all those servers mentioned in here. Cairo being the most, and Cairo most normally the most important, but depending on the quests, I will go over it. Like in this case, I have an unofficial request, one of the requests I have, which I still have to do. So basically, once you have downloaded the file or the items you want to translate, you then also have to open the translation file from the project. Of course, make sure you're up to date with the current layout of it, so you don't have any different files or something like this. Like last commits were a system EN folder, then under Lua files for 15. Ignore the additional files, they are not, so basically those two files are in the project you're downloading, and then you just open the iteminfo.lua, getting up, and then you search out the next free or the next used ID to get the ID to look for this. Like in this example, it's 490, 490, 381. So pretty much the next free ID would be 394. So this one. So just scroll up, and then you have the spaces between. So you just copy this one here. I'm gonna cut it, place in there, and then I will start translating. I'm gonna skip the translation process or make a cut until I translated it, so you have a look in there. I'm just gonna save this real quick so it's out of there. Then so quick cut, and then I will make this. Well, I'm gonna explain this, of course, the translation process first. So what I use for the official to get the correct text or symbols from the respective server, I use Divine Bright. It's the most awesome database out there. I think I'm sure everybody knows that by now, especially for renewal content. So I make sure here on the upper right corner, I make sure that I select the server in origins from, because sometimes if you have Brazil by selected by chance, it prints the content of the Brazil, but since we use the original, let's say the exclusive, no, not the unit where it was first introduced, basically, that's what my list goes to after some ordering. I'm not sure which server included it first. That's not something I'm going to research. That's going to take another whole level of research in its way, but a waste of time. If you are sure that a certain item is different, was first implemented on that server, go ahead and change it on your own. I'm not going to do that. It would be too much. And so basically, like also on my, I think, GitHub page itself, for fuck's sake. So, sorry about that. Yeah, since the new regulations from GitHub, you have to need to enable it. So, back to topic. In the README down here on the main page, you have the priority I go by. Pretty much Cairo is the first one, and then if there's a ID listed in Cairo which is not in Cairo, then it will add this one and so on, going down the list. That's what my local script does. So let's go back to the original one. So then I also so after you have done the whole setup and so on, we will go into the translation. But then next part is the selection, the copying thing. It's not too hard. It's pretty easy. You just there are a few exceptions for several items or servers, pretty much like Chero being a good example. For J, you have to make some tweaks to the translation. I use Google Translate, so it's the one I'm most familiar with. It's not too much of different to other one, and I think it's even more reliable than others, but that might be just me. I of course have the other ones also tried out for the several same content sometimes, and it ended up very much the same. Sometimes even the most bullshit I have ever seen. So Google Translate, in my opinion, is the go-to. So in Jira example, you have here those small circles. Those are dots. Pretty much, you have to make the lines correctly. In, well, since a few ages now, Google Translate can make it pretty good, but until a certain date, it was not really. It didn't make sense. So I started to make a habit out of it to make those into one lines like this one. Just go one line above, and then you get the correct, especially grammatic style. So you just basically look for it. For Jira, it's also important that they have so many stuff going on and different kind of wordings, and you have to adjust. That's where my translation layout topic comes into place. I might do upload this file again, like I used to in the past on the main repo, which I removed and afterwards. So you have it safer, but that might be on the Discord afterwards. Maybe I'm gonna do it like the sprite folder I did with this one after I learned about it. So maybe I will do it later after this video. So expect some small update about that link there to download the file itself, because technically I use the file itself where the whole text comes from, which is pretty much this one. Goes down here, is no coloring or anything else. Well, I could, but I'm not gonna do that. A bit different sorted than the online version, but still the same content. Especially here, since I use ANSI, one is Cairo, one is Jiro. Those, if I put this to UTF-8 as example, it's gonna screw. You see, that's the problem. That's why I use ANSI, so it's really displays the correct. I know. I also saw that there's different Western, if I feed, or was it Eastern or Western? The Windows 12.52 version. I didn't try that yet. Yeah, still fucks it. So ANSI is the way to go, because the client will convert it if necessary. But in this case, it's just to look up for lookup, to see in the details of the items, like is it accessory left or is it accessory right, like in this example. I have a few down here as well regarding the unidentified item display names and so on, like, and what I use for terms for the enchantment stones. Then and down below is only the item reform system, and then enchant lists the strings and the correct translation to it to be pretty much the same. I also have some words about Google Translate, but I can't find it right now. I don't. I can't remember where I put that. Might be a bit more on the top about the elements, pretty much how Google translates some wording. Oh yeah, here it is. Google translation for elements: Fury is fire, Cancer is shadow, Castle is holy, Immortality undead, and Flame is ghost. For I don't know why. My mostly for J-Ro, but as well as Kilo, so Korean as well. So anyway, that's back to this. So once you have this text down here, look through it, and then you will see kind of. Also for J-Ro, I didn't make it possible to have it. Sometimes it doesn't have a slot, so you have to make sure it has the slot the Divine Pride displayed in. As well as hit gears. Because Zero is stupid, they have two different files for them, so they still use mostly TXT files for the descriptions, resource names, and so on. But for those whole flags like the class name, costume, effect ID, they use the item info, which mostly only has empty strings in there. So empty values from those which are normally used. So Cherry, you have to convert both together into via converter, fix the encoding issues, so the string issues for Lua, because Lua only can read certain encoding, which I can't remember. I think it was even UTF-8 by default. But well, as long as the file is in NC, you fix the strings like the missing, I can't remember what those are, so commas and so on. I don't have a good example right now. I'm not gonna deal with that. Taiwan is also such a issue where the encoding which will then error on startup if you run an encoder, the tool I use. But it's not for you to worry about. Just an explanation why NC is even more better than UTF-8, especially because of the encoding problems it might cause, like mentioned already. Like you see here, back to topic accessory, there's no location, so you don't have to put a location down, pretty much. Like here, accessory, you can skip the position, like documented in the, like here, everything is. That's really only used if the accessory has a fixed position. Defense is also something which you can skip if there's no defense attached, so it's 0. Everything else, I'm trying to make that it has defense 0, even if it's 0. Yeah, stated like in here, which I didn't remove in this case since I decided afterwards to also remove with defense. I left it, I can't remember. Might be even that I re-added that afterwards, been some time. Anyway, so in the end, I'm gonna skip now the translation process in itself, so you can see what it looks like here right back then. Quick cut between, since I just remembered. So if you copy one of those texts, like the introduction, since it consists normally of 2 lines, and if you copy over it, I just copy over it both between those marking. I can't remember what they are, but apostrophe, something like that. Then you really end up with this result pretty much. So since this is an invalid line for Lua, you have to mark that again with the same like everything else. That's pretty much all you have to stay to note down. If in this case, if it's a Lua file, Node+ has an automatic detection. Might be Visual Studio 2, but I don't know how it's highlighted. Of course, maybe you because of your team, what style you use, and so on. But in case you have a log file, it's not detected. So you can change the language of it into Lua as well and have the same result. You can see pretty much how it changes. But just you know. So back to the back in a minute or two. So translation is done. You can now see pretty much what I did there. I'm gonna just open up this one so you can make some comparison. Let's go like this. No, that's not gonna work. Let's go with this and then no, neither. Okay, screw it. Normally I have two monitors to translate, so it's easier for me. So I'm gonna hop over to another one. So the basic layout, of course, first of all, some text, which you also have to make sure it's correct or makes sense in English, which I didn't right now, so I will do that afterwards. But I think it's pretty all right. But so in the end, stats wise are separated for overview or readability. You can of course, like unlike Jiro, which also have those lines in between, I use to make text-based attributes, so item effects to make into one section pretty much. Once you have certain conditions, like when equipped stuff, like equipment and stuff, or refinements and so on, I'm now in a service, sorry, so I can't get something like this. Like if you have an equipped record of image 1 with slot 1, then it's this one. Once you if it's equipped by Warlock class, you get this effect with some spacing between. Since it's still attached to the record of image, record of mage item, it's still in between those. So those are some sections you have to look up what I did with them, and you research and do the spacing, how it's done, and like this. Jiro has sometimes complicated lines to deal with. As well, because I just see, I'm going to just point back here. For physical and damage adjustments, so both in this case, I have just damage. Since even if it's physical and magical, it's too long for no reason. So basically, I just skip the physical and magical damage part. Like if I would not just physical and magical damage, it's the same as damage. Your general damage is increased. Done. Since there's only those two. As far as I know, that is. Unless fixed damage is also maybe mentioned, but normally fixed damage is fixed damage, like the skills we had, pressure like we had. But that's a different story. Then, like mentioned, once something like when certain conditions have to be met, like in this kind of when equipped with the Favor of Victor seal, I had to look it up. Since it's not also in a thing, that it's pretty much a hit gear in my opinion. Yeah, since it uses this one. For you, Chiro, like mentioned, you have to make sure the class Namvelia is inserted as well. Problem for those items might be if it's different for KO, then you will have a troublesome. So, but default, since I had Keros default, I made sure it's well, this one is an IRO effect, maybe deep in this case, but for this one I need, sorry. The carry one, it displays a Chero effect. So it's a Chero item in the first place. So no problem on that part. So then next thing, I mostly copy I'm gonna call it the category of item from one of both sides. Normally it's sorted by category, in this case accessory, but since it doesn't have a location, I remove the location part. I'm now leaving defense because I think I decided afterwards to leave defense 0 so that everybody knows, oh, that has no defense. Okay, done, gone. Pretty much that's all they need to know. And of course, make sure the base level is correct, the armor level, and so on. To make sure it's pretty much the same. Also, MDEF for Chero is in the item category itself, like in here. You have to make that possible. So, like, if there would be like 10 MDEF attached to it, I would place it at the top and put it like this, and it's attached. Because I'm not gonna do one extra category down for and then look that up differently. I'm gonna stick to the ones I have. So stats mostly above the text and split from with a line, however you want to do it. Up to me, up to you basically. But I would favor if you keep those lining splitting the same, like in the translation layout described, which we'll go back to now. So like mentioned, this one, I will, like mentioned, also attach the file directly so you can download it. I try to keep them up to date as much as possible, so they're the same. They are also here a bit categorized. What you mostly will need is the item info, because it's the most thing. So there are examples and so on what color coding I use. In case something is not listed, but there could be something similar, look up the keywords for them. So there are many use case which I maybe forgot to include or something like this. So look up keywords to make it match each other. It can report that even to me, so PM me or post it on the Discord, wherever you want. And I will add it to the list in case I forgot about it in between translations. So after the was added, I already made sure that there's no lure error, but in case there are lure errors, like I'm gonna make, like here I forgot a comma. I'm just gonna restart my client real quick so you show to show what a lure error looks like. So in the end, you will see this one might be not too readable right now, but it stays system en slash lure files for 15. So the file name item info.lure on line 508,413 is an error, basically. So it expected to close. So pretty much it expected I don't remember those names, I'm sorry. No, I can't remember. So pretty much Lua expected here that there's nothing here anywhere anymore. So it expected a close of those. But since there's, so you have to fix that. Pretty much it also line near 399, 399. That would be something like this. So this table content pretty much has an error inside. So if you just place the comma in there, close it, of course you will get the footer info file init. That means that no item was loaded. One item can screw everything up. So don't never ignore lure errors. It's the worst part. Fix them or try to fix them with help of others. So in the end, I will go now into my server, local one. So then let's load it up. Might be OBS related. I'm gonna copy now the item ID since I believe it's not in item database. Oh, it is. Oh, that's not bad. I will go still onto my custom NPC checker. I mean, if it's in the database, you can click on here and you will see it just fine. Remember to note that it's a Jero item, so you need official sprites from there. So make sure you download the official data GRF, which I provide as well, so you don't get any missing resource file names. You know, so if I just pop it in here, I can have here and have the same thing done with my. You can then check for any kind of typos or color mismatch. Like I go by muscle memory pretty much already. So, but there might be even some mistake there, since huge files they tend to lag even for a good PC like mine. So in the end, if I type because of the autocorrection, like this one, if I go further and you might autocorrection sometimes lags, so there might be missing input. That happens. It's no worry, just let me know or fix it and then let me know. Like over here, I just see this one. It wasn't a mistake or anything, since it was not identified or unidentified, but it would be it's not an issue in this case. It's just a unnecessary clause, pretty much. So in the end, that's pretty much all. Item translated, it's in the database, and yeah, that's all you need to know. So since mentioned, it's up to you what kind of item you want to translate. Like in this case, there are a lot to choose from. You can translate cards, you can anything you want. Just make sure, basically, make your text encoding match to be NC at least, minimum NC, like mentioned here, and I use the setup I use. Then you're pretty much safe to go. If you're unsure in any kind of relations, you can PM me, write in the official Discord for my project. Go ahead. I will answer as soon as possible and the best I can. So in the end, but yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know. This might have been a bit longer than I expected. I expected 10 minutes, and now I'm already at 28 minutes, but well, yeah, who knows? Yeah, whatever. So in the end, it's gonna take long. And also, like I mentioned, make sure that your project files are up to date. In the end, how you want to contribute is up to you. You can PM me with translated items in a separate file, and I will add them myself. Once I have, I will add it to my list, to my file, and then update the repo accordingly. After I have read through them, so proofread them, how it's called in the magazine, and so on, proofread or general literature. So I made to make sure there's no grammatical or any kind of difference from my translation like I'm used to. So make sure, because it's less work for me. Otherwise, I could have translated it myself. So, but it's not let's say, it doesn't make sense in this case that you're trying to help me, but there's too much difference to my style. I'm request from you if you're trying to help me with it. I mean, mistakes happens. That's nothing. I'm not perfect either. So nobody's perfect. So don't worry about mistakes. Like mentioned, if you have questions, trouble, or not sure about some kind of translations, I will have a look once I have time and help you with the phrasing. Well, pretty much that's all you need to know and you have to do. And pretty much, yeah. I wish you good luck and have fun. I mean, fun is kind of, yeah. Have good luck with it, pretty much. And like I did mention it already, but I'm gonna repeat it again. Sharing the files either via PM box, or you can even go into Discord, the contribution channel. I think you should be able to write in there, or at least in the thread, which kind of items you're trying to make. Upload a file, or because it doesn't matter if it's TXT or even a Lua file itself. Uh, at least the translated items, so I can pretty much generate those files fresh. So in the end, either PM contribution channel, or even, I don't know, feedback. You can into go with feedback channel as well if you want to. Up to you how you want to share it. Even pull requests. Wait, no, pull requests are kind of dangerous for those kind of files. I would prefer if you send them directly, so I can edit myself to the file itself. Otherwise, I have, especially if there's certain differences in versions of the file, like you didn't update it on time, pretty much. Yeah. Anyway, like I mentioned, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. I hope it was not too fast or too complicated. I talked a bit faster than I usually did, but I hope it was kind of acceptable in this case. So if you have to look through some items, how I did them, learn from it, and try to apply the changes you look. Even I have to look through items how I did it somewhere by looking up keywords. Even I have to, because I can't remember everything. Sometimes it's unique, sometimes it's the same. There's still entries there. Sometimes I have to redo it or rephrase it to match, so it makes sense. So now that's done. Thank you very much, and have a nice day/evening.